All right, Alan, why don't you walk us through the life of a rim?
Yeah,
because
so that's not
cheat
not
out to the camera.
Sorry.
You know the guy's a true engineer. Turns his back right to the lens. So it means he's thinking about his work. So since you're not going to find two other guys that are as interested as this as we are, now's your time to shine, Alan.
Yeah.
First off, we have what looks like a quarter-inch hoop of aluminum here.
Yeah.
Looks
So
about
that's-
24 inches or
So
so.
that's 6061, and
aluminum.
This is the piece that was on your car that bent.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is we take that raw piece and then we shape it, we spin it into a barrel shape, and that gets turned into basically a rim half. Yeah, so you've got the inner, the outer, those both vary by half inches, so you've got 5 different inners and 5 different outers. And then we also take the center forging,
Right.
and we'll change that 50 millimeters to just fine tune that, because you don't want to have just half-inch increments. So we go down to the millimeter and we'll move it back and forth.
Right.
So when you start with a piece like this, and you start spinning it and pressing it and molding it into this shape, how much of the thickness do you lose?
You actually want to thin a lot of it up, and so if you thin it,
It's incredibly light.
If you're thinning it, you're actually strengthening it, so you're changing the grain structure because you're putting a lot of energy into it. So you want to thin it, and if you thin it in the right places and not in the wrong places, then you're going to end up with a rim that's very lightweight and very strong, but also a lot that has toughness and absorbs the right amount of energy, so you don't crack it. If you do hit a big thing, you bend it, which is better than cracking, so you don't lose air.
So this, speaking of air, hydrogen.
Hydrogen.
What about my hydrogen? Leno uses hydrogen.
Does he?
Hydrogen?
Yeah. Or nitrogen, sorry.
Nitrogen.
Sorry.
Okay, I was going to say.
Wrong element.
Yeah. So nitrogen actually,
And
some
then
people.
what about helium? Too thin?
Okay, no, and actually, so some people think, let me deal with nitrogen first.
All right.
Nitrogen is actually a good thing because it is true. Air is mostly nitrogen, but it does have a lot of water and other stuff in it. So when the temperature changes, the pressure changes. And so when you use just nitrogen, you're going to keep that pressure change to a minimum. And so that's why people run nitrogen.
It's not expanding and contracting.
Exactly. And
Hydrogen would blow up.
So
right?
hydrogen,
I would hope so.
yeah,
I mean, that would
hydrogen.
be kind of awesome
That's
to
what
see.
they
Right.
make blimps out
But
of it.
helium, people, we're going back to unsprung mass. People are like, well, what if I filled my tire with helium?
Yeah.
It'd be light, right? It's like float up in the air. Well, the thing is, there's two things. Helium's such a small element, hydrogen's smaller, but helium's such a small element that it would pass through the rubber, probably.
Right.
And so
it
you would
would
have a
leak.
leak. You would
Right.
leak. But
Right.
also, remember I said it's not weight? So helium would change the weight, basically.
Well, but marginally.
But if you put it
I
on
mean.
a scale and it was helium, it would weigh less because the helium is giving it some buoyancy. Okay?
But do you think you'd get an
Couple of
ounce?
grams.
Oh, but here's the thing. I
grams
told you
or
it's not
something.
weight. Remember, it's mass.
Right.
And so the problem is the helium doesn't change the mass of the wheel. The mass is the same whether it's here or on the moon or wherever in space. It doesn't make any difference. And that's what affects your unsprung, your performance
Right.
and your handling. It's the mass, not the
So
weight.
helium wouldn't work
It-
anyway.
helium
It
doesn't
wouldn't
really
change
care.
anything.
It would
In
change
theory, it'd
everything
be
just
lighter,
a
but it's
tiny
the
little
same
bit.
amount
It
of
really
wheel,
wouldn't-
same amount of tire.
Exactly.
The
Yeah.
only way to lighten it is to cut mass.
And
Exactly.
when I was saying hydrogen, I meant nitrogen.
And nitrogen.
Right.
But nitrogen's
Right.
actually a good thing.
Right.
Some people are like, no, it's just a
Yeah.
gimmick. It's not. It's a gimmick if you're just driving down the road.
Right.
It's not necessarily a gimmick if you're motorsports. You
Right.
know?
Oh, I'm
And,
sure
you
everyone
know.
in F1
Right.
runs.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everyone
Yeah,
who's got a
motorsport guys
sponsor.
are probably going to
Right.
use, yeah,
All
exactly.
right,
Hydrogen,
so
which is good. So now everybody that listens to the podcast doesn't watch the video, thinks you're an idiot.
I know. Well, they knew that already. I was wondering why you guys were so confused.
We're like, no,
Well,
no,
what
I
would
thought-
hydrogen
I just
do?
thought you had some great...
Hydrogen is the same. Hydrogen would be the same thing as helium, except it's even lighter, but it would pass. It's even smaller, so it would pass out fast. It would leak
But
faster.
it's not insanity.
No.
All right. So
And it is, there is
Still
that
gas.
flammability issue too.
Right,
So,
yeah.
So this is the forging. That starts out as a solid piece
little
of aluminum.
heavier.
Yes.
And
now
so-
this is aluminum, but you rarely
Yeah.
find a billet that you almost can't pick
Yeah,
up.
so that actually starts out as a solid piece of bar stock, and it gets forged into that shape, and that
Right.
changes the crystalline structure of the aluminum and makes it a lot stronger. So that's the forging process,
Right.
and that weighs about 60 pounds. And then depending on the design, we'll cut 80% of it. So it'll end up on a three-piece center. The center will end up weighing anywhere from 8 pounds from our competition series up to like maybe 12 pounds for our bigger stuff.
What is the center to hoop ratio just normally?
The center is a little less than half.
Of the
center's-
hoop.
the way we the way we do it, we spent a lot of time refining the centers, so we make the centers as light as possible. So usually the centers are lighter than the rim halves.
But in most cases.
In a lot of other companies, that's not necessarily.
And then also the fasteners, obviously, since they're out at the end of the rotating mass, those must be light as well.
And we use actually a high-strength stainless on most of ours, but on our competition series, I mentioned the German titanium fastener we use. So for all our competition series, we use a titanium fastener because we wanted to reduce that rotational inertia because it is out, it is farther out. So
this is one of the new designs, part of the 790.
And so
the line is what 790 RS, and there's 4 or 5 designs.
4 styles.
4 styles.
And so if you look at this P40S here, this is sort of our bread and butter. This is sort of what HRE is known for. This is actually a one-piece wheel.
So this one's a monoblock.
Yeah. So this is a monoblock. So it starts out just like that as a forging. But the barrel gets spun out, just like you spin out the rim half. It's just like a big potter's wheel. It gets spun out into that shape, and then we machine the whole thing. This is what we're known for, right? This looks like a motorsport wheel. It's actually a street wheel, but that's our heritage. That's our inspiration. What we wanted to do was say, we don't just have this great engineering and manufacturing capability. We also want to demonstrate our design capability with the 790 RS. And so what we said is, let's make something that's really dramatic, sculpted, much more professionally designed, not so purposeful. I love purposeful because I'm a motorsport type guy as well, but we also want to make something that was a little more luxurious and beautiful.
The finish, is this powder coating?
It is powder coat. So our standard, and even in fact, this finish on this one is brushed. It's hand brushed. It takes about 2 hours to hand brush the center, and then it has a tinted clear coat that is powder coat that gets applied after the fact.
And what should one do for rim maintenance? Like,
depends on what it is.
The aluminum. Well, let's say the aluminum hoop. A lot of guys have that rim, and they want to polish it up, and then maybe they want to protect it as well. Do you have a polish that you like? And then when you're done with the polish, you walk away, or should we put some wax or protective over?
So the problem is, we used to sell most of our wheels with just a bare polished aluminum rim, and then you got to use like a mother's polish, right? Metal polish. And you could put some wax on it that would help keep it that way a little bit longer, but really not that much.
Right.
And so now when we do an outer like that, it's actually got a clear coat on it.
Right.
And because we don't want, and then
but for the dudes who get their rims from China exclusively,
I hate to say it, you got to get that. You got to get the polishing ball right, and
you get the ball.
At this point, with the clear coats and the powder coats, I mean,
it's soap and water.
It's soap and water. I mean, you could wax the wheel.
You don't need it's soap and water
to keep the dust off.
I mean, you can use wheel cleaners. That's the nice thing about the powder coats is they're robust. So if you use a wheel cleaner on it, you don't ruin it. But soap and water actually works.
And you say. Probably, if you just have a bare aluminum, use the aluminum polish. You say just regular
polish.
Regular car wax would work to preserve it, or at least sort of
a little bit more.
Get a few more weeks out before you have to get the thing. All right, shall we look at your cars?
Sure.
What'd you bring us here? So 5 Series BMW.
Yeah. So we got a new F10 with some Arkham carbon body kits, but we really wanted
to the camera.
Yeah. So we really wanted to show. The new 790 RS. This is really sort of the target market. The satin really highlights the sculpting. It really sets off the reflections really well.
And I'll say it's one of these things where it's like, after the chick gets the nose job, now she's got to get the boob job. And it's like, once you do this, now you got to get the rotors and you got to get the caliper.
So this is the nose job.
Well, I'm saying the rims look great. And they're so lightweight that there's so much daylight passing through them that all of a sudden you go like it's that syndrome of when you're going to fix up the den in your house. You get some new carpet, new TV, new wallpaper. Then the rest of the house looks like shit. And the BMW's a nice car, but you look at the car, you go, oh, the rims look awesome, and then you go, could use a little caliper upgrade there.
That's probably why HRE has such a close relationship with Brembo. They're really good friends with us.
And you guys are probably only 15 miles apart.
Yeah, no, more, maybe an hour. Yeah, 40 miles or something like that.
This texture
drove this
that's
car,
on there,
I could get there in 25 minutes.
Yeah.
The texture, is that in the aluminum or the powder coat?
No, that's in the powder coat. Yeah,
I like that.
It gets prepped. It's prepped smooth, and
it's a great color. And the HRE, even though I always just thought it was German or something. I didn't know where
Swiss,
the company's Swiss. I didn't know because of the badging and just the technology and the quality and the price and things like that. But it's an American company.
Yep, it was founded in 1978.
Does anybody remember what HRE stands for?
Yes, it's the original founder's, his first name was Howald, so it's Howald Racing Enterprises. So.
Got to be some German heritage in there.
But it's been owned by the current owner since '93. and I joined in '99.
Well, you've done yourself proud, and Alan, we're going to talk about some 15-inch rims, and some special machining.
Very nice.
I need you to retool.
Actually, we're getting a lot of requests for the vintage stuff,
right,
and those are things that we're trying.
It's not all
to
Cadillac Escalades, man. Don't
No,
let
no,
people
no,
tell you it's all Range
guys.
Rovers and Escalades.
No, we're not about the boob jobs and bikinis. We're more like Grace Kelly in a driver's suit or something.
Grace Kelly, he's pretending like he just thought of that in real time. Did you hear the buzz?
Yeah.
We're like,
He said
it's
that
kind of like
before.
I'm
He
like,
said
okay,
that
who's
before.
gorgeous? Who's timelessly
no,
gorgeous?
that was good.
Who's timelessly
Grace
gorgeous?
Kelly is hot, and she died driving a car. So
that's kind of morbid. Yeah, I didn't mean to take us there.
she went off a cliff in Monaco. What
I didn't mean
the
to
hell?
take us there. Sorry.
Oh, it was more like James Dean with an ascot.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
All right. Alan, this has been a little slice of heaven. How do people find you if they want to go online?
HREWheels.com.
HREWheels.com.
Yep.
All right, Alan, so thank you so much for coming out today.
Pleasure.
And Matt, great job, buddy.